Hi everyone, today I will talk about the importance of reading literature in our daily lives. I will give you some reasons as to why you should read more and some tips on how to become a better reader. Reading is an inescapable part of our daily routine. We read online articles, flip through entire magazines, and scroll through our social media feed, some of us first thing in the morning. So to read means to be human. The first forms of writing appeared between 3400 and 3300 BC in Mesopotamia, or present-day Iraq, where they used cuneiform. The earliest known author who wrote temple hymns and inscribed her works with her name was the Akkadian princess and high priestess Enheduanna. And centuries later, in the 11th century, the Japanese tale of Genji is considered to be the world's first novel, nonetheless also written by a woman. Reading defines our interactions with the world. Just imagine for a moment how different and difficult I might add our lives would be without reading. So, through my speech, I hope to generate a shift in perspective and present reading and reading literature as a pleasurable activity that should come naturally to you. I will let you decide for yourself if reading is for you or not. I think it's wise, first and foremost, to address the elephant in the room. And that is, why aren't people reading so much anymore? Or, maybe an even better question, why is reading so difficult for so many of us? I am firmly convinced that our perception of reading is formed at school and influenced during those years by our teachers. Unfortunately, the current curricula fail to encourage students to appreciate literature, forcing them to read instead because it's important. If we don't understand why we must do certain things, why we must read, for example, Jane Eyre or The Great Gatsby, then it will become almost impossible to pick up the habit of reading literature, because this idea of reading as being something mandatory and boring will always be at the back of our mind, bugging us. Another issue is impatience. Living in a fast-tracked society means that we tend to get lost in easily digestible content, which allows us to be more relaxed and, in turn, less focused. Reading regularly cures this deficit of attention because it requires sustained periods of deep concentration. And one of the best parts of reading is that you can develop this skill without even noticing. Some books are so captivating that time simply flies by. And talking about time, one of the best times to develop an appreciation for good writing is high school. This is the period when we have more time on our hands and more liberty to choose how we would like to spend it. Right now is the perfect moment to explore, to play around, and to read out of sheer curiosity. Reading can even help you figure out what you're interested in and prepare you for university life by practicing the skills I will mention later. So if you'd like to make a habit of reading, it's better to start earlier rather than later. However, I haven't yet answered maybe one of your most pressing questions, which probably is, why should we care about reading literature? Well, one of the most obvious reasons is escapism. Many readers give in to literature to escape their harsh and unappealing realities. And, truth to be told, why wouldn't they? Literary works of fiction provide the perfect support to indulge in our fantasies, and because they transport us to other realities, into other places and ages, with distinguished characters who enable us to see the world through different eyes. Likewise, some of us read to find ourselves. I'm in this category more often than I like to admit. By searching for characters who resemble us, we try to find someone with whom we share similar struggles. Let's say we're on the lookout for our role models. But most readers read to feel something, to sympathize with the characters and their life experiences. And when it comes to manipulating the human psyche, literature has no rival, honestly. One of the most incredible yet often underrated benefits of reading literature is the improved ability to empathize. Via fiction, we have access to a character's thoughts and inner world, so we are more likely to sympathize with them. One of my favorite examples is the Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky, this guy over here, who is known for his horrific, monstrous characters who catch the reader's attention and sometimes heart. Dostoevsky can make you sympathize with a buffoon, an avaricious young man, and even with a cold-blooded criminal. His writing is enticing, illustrating a realist glimpse into his character's misery, passions, and struggles. But other than being able to sympathize, reading requires many valuable skills, such as the ability to understand complex ideas, make logical connections, and analyze content, all of which can be improved over time. However, there is no use in having these skills if you can't put them into practice. Although this is difficult to admit, some of us might find it hard sometimes to express ourselves in writing. I was in that place myself. I used to have a hard time finding the right words to put my ideas onto paper. But once I got a taste for literature, my writing style evolved, becoming more organic and versatile and losing some of its rigidity. So it's true, reading can influence our writing style and increase our vocabulary. By reading frequently, we are exposed to different writing styles, so we are more inclined to observe stylistic details such as cadence or composition. Eventually, we pick up these characteristics ourselves in our own writing. Believe it or not, I found my interest in reading pretty late compared to other readers. During the first lockdown, bored to death, I decided to read the first book in the sci-fi series Dune by Frank Herbert. This was the book that made me fall in love with literature. And truth to be told, I think each and every one of us has a book that is destined to make them fall in love with reading. But returning to my previous point, it's never too late to begin. The thing is, when it comes to making a habit of reading, you just have to start somewhere, anywhere really. So with this in mind, I have prepared a series of 5 tips on how to become a better reader. First, always read the first 50 pages. We tend to give up too easily. Oh, this book is boring, or I don't like the subject. Does that sound familiar? Well, if that's the case for you, then you should always remember that before dismissing a book, you should always read the first 50 pages. You'd be surprised how many books turn out to be much more interesting this way. Be patient, reading was never meant to be easy. Second, remember that reading is a group activity. We are taught that reading should be practiced alone, in silence. And although that is true to a certain extent, reading should also be encouraged as a group activity. If you can, join a book club or start one yourself, and debate with your friends the books you think are interesting. My friends and I organize a book club, and what we've discovered is that by discussing with the other members the books we like or dislike, we get to learn a lot from each other, simply by listening to different ideas and opinions. Third, try to engage with the content you've read, even after finishing a book. Reading shouldn't stop with the last page. After finishing a book, especially a classic, read some critical analysis reviews, learn more about the author, and, why not, watch the movie. Interacting with the content you read is essential to better comprehension, acquisition of critical analysis skills, and making connections. Fourth, read what speaks to you. To build a habit, don't force yourself to read something just because it seems important. My whole point is to encourage reading as a pleasurable activity that shouldn't be mandatory. So if you think Virginia Woolf or Franz Kafka aren't for you, then find other authors who inspire you. And once you settle on something, diversify a little. This ties in nicely actually with my previous point. Read more about the author, the literary movement they are a part of, etc., and find other books you might enjoy. Don't let your reading list shrink. And last, but definitely not least, set a daily goal. The key to building habits is consistency. So I recommend setting a daily goal in pages. You can begin small with 10 pages a day, but grow that number steadily to at least 50 pages a day. I know that to some of you this might seem impossible right now, but know that with enough practice you can make this a reality, if and only if you set some time aside every day to read without distractions, for example your smartphone. I promise you that once you're in the habit of doing this regularly, reading every day will come naturally to you. You will discover in no time how reading can be a very relaxing and enjoyable hobby. Now that the end of my speech is approaching, I want to leave you with a challenge. Find some time today to read the first 50 pages of a book that has been on your reading list for a very, very long time. And if you don't know where to begin, don't worry about it. I have a suggestion for you. Most likely, one of your favorite movies is based on a book. Think of Fight Club or Pride and Prejudice. Give it a quick Google search to find out. And with this being said, what are you waiting for? The myth of the right time is usually only a justification to delay things. Use this moment and make it the right time for you to start reading. Thank you.